All right. So, welcome again for any people that just came in. My name is Lori Friedman. I am a co-leader of our postcarding program. I'm here with Joy Martin, and she's my partner. We've been doing this together since 2019. So, we've done quite a few of these calls, but it's really cool to see new people that want to get started. So, quick bit about our organization. We are very old. We were one of the original chapters of Indivisible to start after the first Trump administration came into being. So that was around 2017. We still have the same leadership team, which is pretty remarkable. And we've grown now from a small local group to one of the larger national chapters. Our mission is the same. It's taking action to create a more just, caring, and inclusive America. And that allows us to do quite a bit of different kinds of work over the years, and we've morphed to what we think are the priorities, and did a lot of virtual work during the pandemic. Now, with the second Trump administration, doing a lot more work within our own local communities, but continuing with elections. And elections is our major focus. We've worked in every major California congressional race and all of the battleground Senate and presidential states over the years, and our goal is to elect Democrats to both chambers of the Congress as well as the White House. We do a lot of advocacy work, especially in the off-election years, and that is working with our elected officials to advocate or push through certain types of legislation, just to support democracy in general. In the last year and a half, we've been very active in resistance work, like all of us have been in our own communities. It's been new for us because the first Trump administration, the protest world was done sort of fragmented. This year, we're much more collaborative, and we work with all the other groups in our area to make things more powerful, bigger protests, working out, helping vulnerable communities, doing anti-ICE work. So we're involved in that too. We have a whole branch of our leadership team that does just that. And then lastly, something that we feel after almost 10 years now of doing this work, that we love to do the education piece, bringing new volunteers in, helping them get trained and up and running. And that's why we're doing this call today. And we're going to be just talking about postcarding, but we have large phone banking, texting, canvassing programs also. Our agenda is very short. We're going to be going through the latest postcarding research because the questions that Joy and I get most are usually around the area of, does it really work? So we're going to talk to you about why it does. We're going to talk about our electoral strategy. We have a lot of choices out there of where to work this year, why we pick the races that we do. We'll talk about our current campaigns, and then a couple of different ways to postcard. There are different options, and then how to actually get started. You guys can be writing your postcards by the end of today, and then we'll have time for questions and answers. So postcarding is been around for a long time. The way we look at it now, where we get together when we write a certain campaign for a certain candidate and there's a script, that really came into being in around 2017 when we started the push for that first blue wave that we had in 2018. And candidates actually started it individually with postcarding. It has since then grown to something that they outsource. There are about half a dozen major large postcarding organizations in the country, and they do this on behalf of the candidates. The effectiveness rate is somewhere between half a percent and 2%, and that's been consistently shown over multiple kinds of research. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you apply that to a very close race, it will be the margin. It could be the margin of victory. So here in California, we had the closest race in the country in 2024 in District 13. Our candidate ended up winning by just 187 votes. That was because of postcarding. If we hadn't postcarded for him, he would not have gotten those 187 votes. So it does work, but you want to be very careful about where you work. And that's why Joy and I are very strategic in where we put your energies and your money. The best elections that have been shown to be the most impactful for postcarding are low-profile elections, meaning local elections, congressional elections, midterm elections, special elections. It's a little bit hard to break through with postcarding in a presidential election year because people are so flooded with information that that postcard doesn't take up a lot of space. I'm in their information world. But when you get lower down, it's very, very impactful. So we're excited that it's a midterm year. We're excited to be working in the primaries. That's when we're going to see closer to that 2%. Because of that, we only work in toss-up races. We only work in the races that are essentially tied. Because if you have a candidate that you want to support who's maybe 5 or 6 points behind, is a component. You can still catch up to that in a campaign year, but probably not through postcarding. Your efforts are better spent knocking on doors, raising money, and making phone calls. So we pick the very, very close elections, and that's where we focus because your postcard is more likely to be part of that winning margin. And then there are different ways to postcard different times of the year. We really like the get out the vote time, which is the month before an election. We do it for primaries because primary voters are more likely to vote than general election voters. So we do a lot of pre-primary work. That's what we're doing right now, actually. And then as we get closer to the actual election in November, we are intensely postcarding, getting people to the polls, giving them their voting information. All of that has been found to be very effective. They need a couple of postcards, though. One postcard doesn't really work, which makes it even a bigger load for us. Sending one card to somebody isn't effective, but if they can get 2 or 3 postcards over the course of a year, we've found that has been shown to increase the voter turnout. And then we don't write to everybody because people like you and me that vote in every single election and that are very engaged, they're not going to be moved by a postcard. So we concentrate on voters that are low frequency, what we call low propensity. They maybe only vote in general elections, but they don't vote in a midterm. So they would be great to write to this year. Also, older people that are more isolated in their lives do tend to respond to a postcard. Young people today don't do snail mail. My kids check their mailbox like once every 2 weeks. It's astounding to me, but they don't live there. They live electronically. So younger people, we don't target them as much as we target older people that are still more oriented towards looking in their mailbox. And then the message itself does vary. There's been a lot of research that's been done on the tone that you would use, the language that would use in a postcard. And what works overwhelmingly better than anything else is a little bit of what we call social pressure. And that would be comments like, your neighbors are counting on you to vote, or your voting record is public. Who you vote for is private, but whether or not you vote is public. And so please vote. Your family is counting on you. Your neighbors are counting on you. Also, anything that provides information, even if it's just the website of their local voting office. It could be a website to check their voting location. It could be a reminder to request their mail-in ballot if we're working in a state that doesn't automatically mail them to you. All of those things work really well. So everything that's done is done with purpose. It's done with strategy, and that whatever that pressure is, it's designed to match the demographics of a voter. So we could be writing to women in a suburban area about gun violence in the schools, or we could be writing to older voters about Medicare. We could be writing to areas that are very low income, targeting things like Medicaid and healthcare cuts. So it's targeted between the message and the voter. So in order to maximize that impact, we need to reach a critical mass of voters, and that's why we concentrate, and we need to work in these toss-up races. If we do that and we have enough volunteers to write enough postcards, we will be effective. We also distribute ourselves geographically. And so for us here, we're a California-based group. We primarily work on the California congressional races. When there are West Coast-oriented Senate races, usually Nevada or Arizona, we tend to work there. But not always. It really depends on where we are in the year. This year, there aren't any Western United States Senate races, so we'll be working on the East Coast. We do on the congressional side, though, we do focus ourselves on those toss-up races that we can flip in order to regain control of Congress that are here in California. We also consider relative need and what we would call rapid response campaigns. So if we're out of addresses this week and I need to load up a new campaign into the system that we use, I will talk to the manager of Activate America, which is the group that we partner with for postcarding. And I ask her where we needed most. Are we needed in this congressional district more? Which Senate race needs more writers right now that's just underwritten to? And so we're a really large group. We have over 9,000 people on our mailing list for postcarding. So we can fill in a blank spot or a need pretty quickly. And then also we do some rapid response campaigns. This is mostly in our online program. Sometimes the manager there something will happen. I think a great example would be maybe a natural disaster would happen in an area and they're not getting their FEMA response. The administration hasn't been helpful, and their particular representative isn't on the ball about it. We can write to those voters something to take advantage of something that's happening in a small specific area. I might send an email out to our writers saying, can we have 12,000 people that we need to reach this week? There was an ICE incident in their neighborhood, and we're writing about how our candidate would respond to that if they got elected. So those kinds of things are also campaigns that you might see on occasion. Right now, pending the primary results here in California, which isn't until June. We've got 4 districts that we're targeting. For those of you that are in California, that's Central Valley, that's 13 and 22. And in Southern California, that would be 45 and 48. We are not going to work in congressional races outside of California. But when I show you if you are outside of California and you want to work in congressional races, I will show you how to do that. There is a way to do that. On the Senate side, we will be in Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Maine, and as of today, Ohio has been upped in its competitiveness. So that will be something we'll add to our list. Lastly, before I get into the nuts and bolts of it, I just want to mention something, and this is something that I deal with quite a bit. And that's we work really hard for a candidate, we're really excited, and they get elected, and then they don't vote the way we want them to. And for instance, I'm very progressive personally, and I live in a very progressive area, but I did a lot of work for Ruben Gallego in Arizona over the years, many times actually. And his votes sometimes are really upsetting to me. It's not the way I would have wanted him to vote. When we work out of district and we work out of state, it's important for us to remember, our volunteers to remember, that the candidate is not accountable to us. They're accountable to their own voters. And the vote that he took, for instance, on Lake and Riley, was consistent with his electorate. It wasn't consistent with the way I felt or the way a lot of his volunteers from California felt. And that was hard. So the way I look at it and the way I encourage our volunteers to look at it is we're working to get chamber control. We're working to control the House, control the Senate, and we do that by electing a Democrat that is working for a Democrat that is most likely to win. It may not be somebody that we line up with. It might not even be somebody that we would vote for in a primary. But once we start doing this work out of state, we have to sort of divest ourselves from some of the positions that they're going to take on issues. There's other ways to work for candidates that you might personally agree with all the time. But for our purpose, working in purple districts, most of these candidates are going to be very moderate, if not even a little conservative leaning. It's just something I always put out there so people are aware. All right, our current campaigns today, we are doing primary work for Georgia. That's for Jon Ossoff. And we are encouraging people to vote because, again, that primary vote is going to be more likely to turn into a general election vote. And that's when he's really going to need the voting. He's running unopposed in the Democratic primary, but we want people to get engaged now and to turn out for him. They're much more likely to fill out that ballot in November if they vote today. After this, we're going to be working in May. We'll be working in the primary here in California because our election is the first week in June. So we'll be doing that work and also start working for Senate candidates that have already been elected. Once the primaries are over, we will start writing in with support for a particular candidate, like Adam Gray in 13, like Sherrod Brown in Ohio, or Jon Ossoff, and who's ever elected in places like Maine and Michigan. We'll be working specifically for them. And it will rotate. On the online portion of our request system, I will probably be changing campaigns every week. Joy's events are a little bit more stable. We tend not to change them as often because of the work involved in setting up live events. But over the course of the year, there will be plenty of different candidates to write for. If any of you are here in Marin, I think most people are probably from out of the area, but if you are here in Marin, Joy hosts a couple of events weekly on Tuesdays at 10 in the morning, Panera Bread here in Novato. We've added a second event the third Tuesday at 5 o'clock at a brewery called Pond Farm in San Rafael. You can RSVP for that on our website. But I think the most thing that we're going to talk about today is the online program, how to work from your own house at your own pace. And I'm going to go through that, exactly how that works. Postcarding parties are something that we really encourage people to do. If you start writing online and you're requesting your addresses and they get emailed to you and you get sort of the flow of that, consider having a party, having people over for coffee or a glass of wine in the evening and writing postcards together. You can really amplify your work and your impact by spreading it around and using your friends and family to come together. Plus, that gets them involved, that gets them feeling better and having some control over what's happening in the world today. The thing that I think Joy and I both love the most about postcarding is when people come up to us and say, it feels so good to finally do something, to feel like I'm contributing. And you can do that yourself by creating your own events. And last year in 2024, I probably had about 12 or 15 people across the country that regularly held events of their own. So instead of writing your 10 postcards, you're actually writing 100 or 200 postcards because your friends are helping you out. So how does it actually work? And I think a lot of people think that Joy and I come up with all the addresses and come up with the scripts, but we don't. You need to be working with a professional political organization, and we use Activate America. They're one of the oldest, best, most research-based programs in the country. There are other choices, but we work with them. They are the only ones that work in California, but they also work in other congressional races across the country, close ones, and all of the close Senate races. So if you're not California based and you want to work somewhere else, you're going to have that option. If you are here or if you want to focus on California, then you're more than welcome to do that also. I'm going to go through the website to show you exactly how this works. And then there's 3 things that we'll look at. We'll look at the online requests, how to RSVP for an event if you're here in Marin, and how to hold a postcard party. So let me go to our website, and this is our website. It is pretty simple. At the top, there's a red band, and that will be sort of breaking news, things that are happening out there in the world. We've got many trainings. You'll see video links there to those trainings if you weren't able to go in person, and just anything that's new or breaking. I won't go through it in detail, but I do encourage you to do that on your own time. It's indivisibleMarin.org. It's pretty simple. And we have a homepage. There's an about page that talks about our history, and we've already done that today. The Learn page is about staying informed. When Trump was first elected, we created this as a way to find good news sites because we weren't really out there much in the independent world. There's quite a few here. You probably have your own that you like, but you're welcome to look through that. And we've got places like Simon Rosenberg, Dan Pfeiffer, Jess Craven, people like that we like to follow. There's a lot of choices out there. One of the good things that has happened with Democrats in the last year and a half is there's a lot more independent media now than there was. The Fight page is more about the protest movement. We've got a section on how to call your representatives that we really encourage everybody to be in active conversation with them. We have trainings on that. There's a lot of information there. And this is more about protest rallies, how to help hold them, how to protect yourself at a rally. All of those things are here. There's a build page, and that has a lot to do with your own personal social media work that you would do to promote the Democrats this November, also things on donations. There's a calendar, and that's pretty simple. If you're here in Marin, if you're interested in events, you can go through this. This is a typical month for us. We're very busy on Tuesdays and Thursdays, especially. But for today, I want to go to the elect page. We'll have sections on canvassing and phoning voters, but for you guys today, we're going to talk about writing voters. And if you go to this page, it's pretty simple. Everything that you need to know about postcarding with us is on this page. There's an explanation here in the front, information that I've already covered today about where we work and who we work with. There'll be a section here about where we're working, and we're in this Georgia primary. Really important to always note with postcarding what your mailing deadline is. Every campaign will have a deadline of which all your postcards must be in the mail. It's really important that we follow that because it's set up to match with election dates. And you want to make sure that you don't request more addresses than you can write by that deadline. So that's always something that's really important. A little bit about what's coming next. So here is the section that we want to go through. If you're here in Marin County, this is information about events. There's this Zoom training that we're here today. The video will be here. We're recording this call, and you'll get that recording, and we'll post it here. And then there's a toolkit here that you can sign up for being a postcard party host if you want to. But what I want to go through is, how do you guys just start right now postcarding? So the first thing that you need to do is follow this link to join our team. And when you join our team, that basically just gets you into our system. And the reason we do it this way is that I need to be able to reach you if we have to make a change. I want to be able to let you know if we have a special private rapid response campaign that's come up. So it's important that you start with this tag. When you go ahead and put your information in, you are going to get an email back. And when you get an email back, it's going to send you, I can't demonstrate this part for you because I am already in the system, so it's not going to allow me to show you the sign up, but it's just like signing up to any account, like an Amazon account. You just put your name, your identifying information in, and your email, and you'll go ahead and sign up. So it's a 2 or 3 step process. It's pretty simple. But what you'll get to is this one. Now, do you all see the sincere? You seeing that, everybody? No. Okay, let me just do this real quick then. Let me stop my share and try this again. Sincere is the name of the system that Activate America uses to distribute their addresses and zip and scripts. It is something that you can go to publicly, and you can just go to Activate America, and they'll give you a little link where you can sign up for your Sincere account. It's really simple. That's going to give you access to everything that they offer. And they will offer probably up to about 20 campaigns at a time by the time we get to the summer. All of the Senate races that are close, and scattered congressional races across the country. Not every single congressional race will be there that are close, but most of them. It changes all the time because people will take the available addresses and they'll move to a different campaign. So it can change from day to day, sometimes even within a day. You'll have a lot of choices. Our Sincere account is within that, but we only offer a couple of campaigns. We don't offer everything. We will always offer the Senate campaign that needs the most amount of help at that moment, and the California congressional campaign that needs the most amount of help at that moment. And that's the role that we play in this system. We love it when people work with us because you're going to get access to some different kinds of campaigns over time. But if you live in Pennsylvania and you want to work for Pennsylvania 8, which is a big district this year, you're going to want to work there. And I completely understand that, and I encourage people to do that. So there's a little bit of a difference. But regardless of whether you make your account with us or with Activate America as a whole, your page is going to look like this. And you're going to come in, and it's going to look, it won't say Indivisible Marin, but it'll just say Sincere. And you're going to want to go to the campaigns, and you're going to see what is available. Now, Georgia is our main campaign. You can see there's over 2,000 addresses available for that. These Pennsylvania campaigns have just been added today, so I don't have anything for them yet because our group is just focusing on Georgia. Normally, you would just see this campaign, but there could be 3 or 4 campaigns. If you went to the Activate America portal, there could be up to 20, and you just can pick whatever you want. And if you click on the Georgia campaign, that's going to give you all the information you need to know. You can request your addresses right here. If you click that, it's going to just give you this space. You would click 10 and assign. I already have some, so I'm not going to take any more right now. But the other thing that you can do is read about the campaign. And in the middle of this section here, it's going to tell you everything that you need to know about that campaign, who you're writing to, what the deadline is. This is a May 10th deadline, that you need to provide your own supplies. It's also at the bottom of the page going to give you the script. And if you wanted to test the script, you want to see what it's like before you actually start writing, that you would click on that, and it'll give you this. You can print it out if you're going to use this campaign so that you can write, you know what you're writing. But this is a typical script. It's very short. It fits on a 4x6 postcard. Senator Ossoff is fighting to protect your health care, and your community is counting on you to vote. That's that little bit of social pressure. Who you vote for is private, whether you vote is public record, but your vote really matters. And then it's giving them some election information that the election, their primary is May 19th, early voting starts the 27th, and you have this website that people can go to get more information. Some campaigns will have an option to provide a label. Now, we never put mailing labels on our postcards. We never print out addresses. It needs to all be handwritten. But sometimes with voting websites information, it's easy to make a mistake when you're writing the URL address. So sometimes you have the option to print out labels that just have that information. Don't feel like you need to do it. It's always optional. I never do it. I just handwrite them myself. But there's sometimes special instructions there. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, and you won't see it all the time. And then there's other ways that you can find out how many. Your page is going to look a little bit different, but you're going to be able to track how many addresses you've written to, how many people, how many different campaigns. And then we keep track totally of the people that are writing with us. And we don't set standards. We don't set goals anymore because people are writing in different ways. But it's nice to follow your own totals. One of the things we don't do is we don't require that you let us know that you've written them. So it's an option, but don't ever feel like you need to check back with us. We work on the honor system. We trust that you've done it. And you can always request new ones. People will ask, well, how many should I request? We would advise you to start out pretty slow. Don't order 500 or something like that. That would not be, that wouldn't be the best use of your time. Try small, try 10 and see how long. Joy's events, they write 10 in an hour and a half, if that helps you. And that's while they're socializing. But you never want to do too many. The only thing that I ask is that you don't order so many that you can't finish in time. It's really difficult for me to get extras written to that don't get written to in time by the deadline. So it happens and people feel terrible. Something comes up in their life and they can't finish. That's fine. But just start out with small so that you don't have to return things at the end. Activate America knows that not everybody's going to finish every single list, but it's very difficult to get large numbers to be written at the last minute. So work really small. I mean, I have people that request 5 or 6 addresses at a time, and that's completely fine. Your record is private. Nobody sees it but me. So and I don't really look that often, to be honest with you, but don't worry about return. Don't worry about letting us know that you write them, but just take really small numbers, and that's better. I just want to show you a couple things before we take some questions. And that is, see if I can find it here. Go back to my list. I want to show you some examples. These are actually from Joy, actually. I think they're from you, right, Joy? Pretty sure. I think they're ones that you came up with for me. And this is the way we address them. And very simple. Someone once said, it almost looks childlike, and that's what we want. The goal is these voters are going to get a ton of mailers. You're probably already getting some in your area. I know I am. Everybody's got their flashy mailer with pictures and great images, and all looks great and very professional. We don't want to compete with that because most of those really do end up in the trash. Something that's personal, that looks like someone is individually writing to you, is going to get noticed a lot more. So that's why we don't use anything computerized or computer printed. Everything needs to be handwritten, and certainly hand addressed. Like if you got a letter in the mail, that's the first thing that would probably catch your eye, right? Because we don't get very many of those anymore. So this is a typical and well-written, well-addressed postcard. You notice that we put everything in the center. The postcards do get a special stamp from the post office, so you don't want to go too low on your postcard. We got to make sure that that stamp gets made. And then, of course, you'd put your postage in the top. This is a typical script. These are from a few years ago, but this would be Dear Vanessa, every California voter will receive a mail-in ballot for the March primary. Who you vote for is private. Whether you vote is public record. Be a voter. Elect Democrats to protect reproductive rights and democracy. Thanks, Joy. Different color print, highlighting, stickers. This is what's been shown to be the most effective. You can get very fancy looking postcards. Some people really love to do that. It's going to be expensive. It will add up. But if that's something you want to do, I'm not saying not to do that. Or if you have a stack of maybe postcards that have flowers on them or something in your desk drawer, you want to use those are fine too. We just don't want you to spend any more money than you absolutely have to. And blank postcards are the cheapest way to go. We use cardstock and we cut it in 4 pieces. That's how we make literally thousands and thousands of postcards for people to write at our events. That's the cheapest, but it's really up to you. There is a document on our website on that Write Voters page that has links to where to order things like pre-stamped blank postcards from the post office, how to order your postage, and a few sites of people that have made sort of politically leaning picture postcards if you want to do that. But please don't feel like you need to. Actually, research has shown that the more plain they are and the more handwritten they are, the better and more likely they are to be read. So just don't want to spend it. The cost of this will really add up. Postage adds up very quickly. It's getting more and more expensive every week, it feels like. So don't spend any more money than you absolutely have to, unless you really want to. Couple of reminders, look at the deadlines. Make sure that you kind of have figured out what your pace of writing is so that you don't request too many and you're able to meet that deadline. Small requests are better. And then what we also recommend is for the online piece, especially if the deadline is really soon, it's not for a couple more weeks, but sometimes when you order your postcards and order your stamps, if you're ordering them online, it takes a while. So we ask that people don't order their actual addresses until your supplies are available so that you don't get caught with a big pile of addresses that you're supposed to write to and no supplies. Before we break for questions, a couple of things. We have some events coming up here in Marin. If you are local, you can always join Joy's events. They're at 10 a.m. The next 2 Tuesdays. Tuesday night, next Tuesday night on the 21st, we'll have our evening one. If you're interested in also learning about phone banking, we have a call similar to this, but it's about phone banking and it's on the 29th. If you're here in Marin, we have a big community call on Thursday night. You can RSVP on our website about all the different ways to volunteer in Marin this year. We have state of play calls. These are election updates. We go through all of the House races and the Senate races, get everybody caught up on what's happening there. Our next one is going to be scheduled in mid-May or early June. We don't have a date yet for that. And then later this spring, we're going to be doing many more in-person events as well as trainings like this. And that is it. There's usually some questions. Joy, is there anything from the chat?
Well, nothing's in the chat, but I just wanted everybody to note that date is April 16th for the community call.
Oh, for the community call.
Yeah, just so you all know
if anybody's here in Marin.
Right. And if anybody does decide to come to an event at Panera or at Pond Farm, all of the supplies are there for you for a donation of $5.
And please RSVP to any of our live events.
I ran out of packets today. Yeah. So we're getting lots and lots of people. We have a wonderful group. And again, if you're from out of town, it's something you can form too on your own by doing your own parties.
Yeah, it's very popular and it's really easy to do. I didn't go through the toolkit because it's sort of self-explanatory, but you can always reach out to Joy or me. And if you need any advice on how to get started with that. But basically people just order 100, instead of ordering your 10 addresses, you order 100, and how you arrange it and how you make little packets or have it out on tables. There's no rules, whatever works for you. But we are available. If you're here in Marin and you want one of us to come to your event, we actually have a whole postcarding team. They're not all here tonight that can actually come and help you host and talk about postcarding if you want to. If you're holding a virtual event, which some people do their events virtually with their friends, I'm happy to come to that event too and talk if that's something that you want. But most people just do it themselves, and just be prepared for it to be very popular. You're gonna have a lot of people joining. It's a pretty powerful tool. It is the entry level organizer activist tool. Most people start with postcarding. I don't know anybody that's a very high level organizer that didn't start by writing a postcard, because it's less intimidating and you don't have to talk to a voter directly. It is effective if it's done the correct way, and we really adhere to best practices for postcarding. We will not put you somewhere that your postcard won't make a difference. So we work really hard to make sure that we're in the very closest races. That can change over time. We could add a race in July or August that all of a sudden has become very competitive. We could also drop a race that maybe you've been writing in it for months and you're really attached to that candidate, but now that candidate's ahead by 5 or 6 points in the polls. We won't write for that candidate anymore, because postcarding isn't going to make that big of a difference. We'll always be in the close races, and hopefully we will be adding more and more close races as we go through the year, as the blue wave that we're seeing is building.